Hey, I'm Grump. I'm also not so grump. It's me, your favorite Game Grump Let's Player, here with a Let's Play. I thought it would be fun to play through one of my old video games that I made, mostly to go over how it's not the best, but it's got some fun ideas, and you know what? It's got spunk, so let's play through it. This is just the title screen. You can tell by me pressing A, real glitchy. The title is supposed to gently fall down once you pressed A, but for some reason, if you held on the title screen, it would just slam down on the bottom. Kind of a weird feature for a game. Also a weird glitch, but we'll get into the glitches of this game in but a moment. So the main feature of this game is that you have these two characters. You have the green one and the orange one. They're connected with a rope. It's not actually a rope. They're an alien species. It's a whole lore thing. But you control the green one with the left analog stick and the right one, the orange one with the right analog stick. I think. Okay, you do. This is essentially just my experimentation into a dual analog style game. I would like to point out, I didn't rip off Noby Noby Boy that hard, but I do really like Noby Noby Boy, and I was greatly inspired by Noby Noby Boy, and I absolutely ripped off Noby Noby Boy. If you don't know what that game is, it's essentially this. But the idea is that you had these two little characters. They're connected by a rope, and you use the rope to wrap around objects and pull them off the edge of the stage. I just did that then. This was really not conveyed to players. When players played this, they had no idea what they were supposed to do. But you wrap your little rope around objects and you pull them off the stage. And the more things you pull off, the bigger your rope can be. If you look in the top right, you can see it says 126 grams, and there's a little icon of the orange character a little bit bigger. And that indicates that I can grow to be as heavy as 126 grams, I think. I did like a whole maths thing about how big they should be and how much they should weigh, and it had a whole weight thing, and then it just kind of went off the rails immediately, so I'm not sure what I did with that. But I can use the left and right triggers to grow and shrink my rope as I go along, and that can make me bigger and make it so I can wrap around more things and knock off heavier objects. So I'm trying to knock off as many things as possible, get them caught in my rope. The rope's a little bit sticky because you're a little gross alien, you're a little sticky boy, and you're trying to just pull those things along. So I've got a bunch of dominoes and a butt caught in me. I'll pull those off. I can get a little bit bigger now. I can go to 1 kilogram. I can be hefty. You'll note the colors changing as I do that. This is done with a what is it called? Scrolling texture? Texture scrolling. Texture offset, texture tiling. Texture tiling. I'm almost 100% sure it's texture tiling. I have no idea. It's essentially the texture for the string connecting the two characters is a gradient of colors, and it just changes the tiling of this to be larger or smaller depending on the size of your rope. So if I extend the rope, it changes the colors a whole lot. And there it goes. I'm a big hefty rope. I can kind of wiggle along like a snake. I'll get into the physics of how this actually works in a moment because it's real silly. But I can wrap around this parasol. I can knock it over, and I can try and kind of pull it off with me, but it's an odd shape. So whatever. The thing I am proud about this game actually is the hitboxes of things are really good. You can see this bench. I can wrap my orange one. I can wrap road around it. Did I mention the characters? The game is called Grobe Road. The characters are Grobe and Road. One of them is called Grobe. One of them is called Road. The green one is Grobe. The orange one is Road. I think I don't remember very well. I remember that one of them was called Road and one of them was called Grobe. They're an alien species. They become this weird multi-headed thing that we'll see in but a moment. And then something about snakes. I don't remember, but I remember it being dumb. And I also remember it not being in the game at all. It's just something I have in a little notebook about this game. But as I go on, I can just kind of pull the characters along. So I made this game in 2019 for a university project, and I made it for an arts university project, an animation university project. I studied animation. I went to an arts university, and you may be able to tell that this game doesn't have animations in it. I really failed that course. I made a game that has no animations for an animation course. The reason for this initially is that I made a game that did have more animation to do with it. It was more of a platformer based game, so you'd have a normal character, they were animated, but I was playing around with the physics, and I was working on a rope physics system, so I for some reason attached it to two characters and thought, well, that's neat. Let's ditch this entire project and make a new one to do with this rope physics. I was very true to form back then, as I am now, of ditching projects and doing other things. But that's how Grobe Road was born, and then this project fails. Let's look at that law. That's an alien you turn into. This is the high score screen. Once you finish a level, it tells you how long it took to finish it, which is odd because all levels are on a timer, and it tells you your score based on what you did. I will now try to go to a different level. You go to the level navigation by falling down these holes. It was very complicated for people to understand this. I think this one is level 1. I assume I ordered them 1, 2, 3. Let's find out. It is. So this one's the best level. Just objectively the best level. This has a lot of assorted items. This has a lot of items from my earlier game, the platformer one. Basically anything with a texture. There's an apple on the bed, there's a pear in the background, there's some Coke cans. Those are all from that original game, and then I've repurposed some of the textures and screenshots of that original game that I will point out as they become apparent. There's these Coke cans, which uses the Overwatch font, just a little wink wink nudge nudge. Overwatch was fun in 2019. Was it? Yeah, I had a good time. But the idea is that I'm just pulling these objects off. So this game was originally just made as a fun art project. People liked it, which was cool. I gotta have it at a university's art show. Granted, it was in a dirty corner, unlit with no signposting, but it was there. Like 2 people played it. Actually, a lot of people played it. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Thinking about fun Grobe Road. I'm also stuck in these Legos, and I totally can't get out. There's actually a cheat that I can activate. I'll probably activate it next game to show it off, but I can just grow infinitely big. But the idea is the more things I pull off, the more big I can grow. The heavier objects I can pull off, the more things I can then pull off as well. That's the gameplay loop. I think I got distracted, as I do immediately, and started rambling on about game design and my old game and university. The gameplay loop of this game is that you start as a small string, you wrap your body around objects, you pull those objects off. This makes it so that you can get bigger, and then you can pull more objects off, as I'm doing now. I'm pulling off that book that says "How to Smell," and it has a bad Photoshop of a nose on it. A lot of the books in this scene are actually screenshots or art from that other game. There's one, it has like a drawing of a girl with her eyes, a line over it. That is from the game's story, because it was about a missing girl. That was from a different game. That was from a narrative-based detective mystery, where you're a person who I'm getting completely sidetracked, but I want to talk about this, so who cares about Grobe Road anymore? It was a detective game I made, detective in air quotes. You weren't a detective, you were someone moving back to your hometown, because you sort of moved away lost contact of anybody. You move back to your hometown, and then you discover that one of your friends is missing, and you go on this whole big journey to try and find your missing friend. And I was really interested in this story. I had a lot of it planned out, and then Night in the Woods came out, and it was the exact same plot. And I was like, oh, I guess I can't do that anymore. And then I did some other stuff. So what I'm getting at is that I invented Night in the Woods, that video game. That was just a weird coincidence, but I guess I just accidentally made the same idea before that game came out, which, now that I think about it, isn't creative enough. So I'll now activate the cheat and go back to Grobe Road. Forget about what I just said. We're back at Grobe Road. So this is the cheat to grow as big as this level allows. So I've just given myself infinite score, essentially, because your size that you can make is based on your score. Your score is derived from what you knock off. Each thing has a score based on its weight. That's why the weight is going up. But I can sort of wrap my big body around everything. I can pull it all down with me, and I can make a big old mess. And that's the whole idea of this game: to make a mess, to make a big old fuss of it, a big old mess. It's also the most fun element of this game, just being a big chaotic snake thing. Interesting to note about the physics, it's actually easier to move around if you do a sort of snake thing where you wiggle your character left and right as you move. If you want to play this game, don't, but it's on my itch.io page, which is in the description, along with a couple prototype things. Again, probably don't do that. You can be one of the few people on YouTube to do videos of it, including you, free French people, who I watched the videos, didn't understand it, but I really appreciate the enthusiasm, I assume, and Mr. Vinny Vinesauce, that streamer. He played it for 2 seconds, couldn't figure out how to work the game, and then closed it, which I found to be the funniest thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life. I don't even watch Vinny that much. He's pretty good, but it just doesn't appeal to me. But for context, is the streamer guy. I sent him the game ages ago, then I think he played it in 2020 for like 3 minutes. But he couldn't get the controls to work and just closed the game, which, to be fair, I should have made the controls work. That was on me, not on him. I just sort of, I guess, broke the game. But it was very funny to see a game that I had essentially forgotten about be played by a very big streamer. It was very cool. I had a good giggle about it. I was like, oh wow, he played my game. Oh yeah, the game didn't work because it's broken and garbage. Yeah, that's about right. This game's real janky. Let's get on to that. So the way the physics work is it has 3 spheres in the snake thing that are that you're kind of controlling. It doesn't have 3 spheres. It has many spheres. It has at least 20. They grow and shrink as you move around, which makes the kind of rope effect. It's not a physics rope, it's just a bunch of circles, rigid bodies in the rope that are moving against each other, and kind of giving the illusion of it being a big physics rope, when in actuality it's just a bunch of circles. When it kind of distorts and moves very rapidly, you can very much see that, but I think it's subtle enough. I think it's easy enough that you don't really notice it. But the rest of the things work is that the objects are all rigid bodies. This is the beginning of my hatred of rigid bodies. This is where it originates. Here's some slug glove lore. They stop being, they're all in a sleep state, which means they're not active, essentially. They stop being asleep when you touch them at a certain weight. So if you touch a large object when you're very small and you wouldn't be able to believably move it, it doesn't turn on. If you touch something with not enough force, it doesn't turn on. If you're not touching something for long enough and it is on, it will turn off. This was because having a game with about 1,000 rigid bodies at once crashed really often. This level was prone to crashing. As I said earlier, it was at like my university's show, because that's just what they do when you make projects. They have like a big like an open university thing for, I guess, publicity, but also to show the things off. The point is, my game was prone to crashing at those things, especially when people played this level, and the bedroom level. That one had a lot of objects too. it never crashed for me, luckily, but it was prone to crashing. Essentially, all the rigid bodies would just make the computers explode, which, my bad on that one. You can tell I very much coded this as an amateur. This was before I really knew a lot about coding, which is, I guess I'm proud of how well it works to say I didn't really know what I was doing. But I'm also not happy with it. I tried to make a Kickstarter for this game and it failed miserably, as you would expect, and I'm super glad it did, because I do not want to be... if I had made this game and published it, I would be that developer who published that garbage game, and none of you would be watching my videos because they'd be hiding in shame. Point is, I've learned from my mistakes of the past. I've grown, and now I don't use rigid bodies anymore because it brings up my painful past memories. That's my curse. That's my backstory loop. I made rigid bodies. I hate rigid bodies. That's my entire character development. I feel there was a lot more I had to talk about with this game that I've completely forgotten, as I do in all my videos, and instead of mumbling about something, now I've lost sight of what I was doing. I've got a real problem. So this game, this level really points out a lot of design issues with this game, early design issues, as you can tell, because I made this game as an artist and not a video game maker person. But that initial sort of dip I was in, I kept not being able to fall out of it. I kept getting stuck in the things. Very tricky to move out of, but now that I'm bigger, I can roll down this hill and I can pick up all these items. This level is the large stage, the first one I played being the medium stage, the second one the small stage. Essentially that means I start off very small and I get very big. It's very inspired by Katamari. Ooh, I remember what I was going to talk about. The terrible prefabbing. None of these items are prefabbed. If you know what prefabs are, it's essentially just a reference to an object that can be changed without it just being in the scene. These are all one object I put in the scene and then duplicated a bunch of times, which is an awful, awful thing to do. It's super bad. You shouldn't do that if you have multiple of the same object in your game. You have one reference to it, and then that is either duplicated or created in scene when needed, but you had this one reference to the object. You don't have 200 references to the object. It made changing these objects really, really, really time consuming, and had a lot of janky things to them. So I was not very smart with doing that, but in my defense, I didn't know what a prefab was. Again, I didn't really understand coding or Unity at that point. So baby, I didn't know any better. I didn't know. I was a fool. I will say the one thing about this game I really do like is the music, and that's because I didn't make it. That was made by, I'm going to subtly look over at my phone to try and find his username. I'll keep rolling down this hill as I look for his username on my phone. It's Us and It. I believe he spells it with dots. He's on Spotify. The music for this game is very good, and I unfortunately did butcher it a little bit because I added sound effects to the character walking and sound effects to the collision with objects, which made the music harder to hear. I did a real disservice to the music on that one. So this is my apology 2 years later. A year and a half later? From late 2019. A year and a half later. Oops. On that one, I wanted to have a fun little system where if you collided with an object, it made a sound effect based on the object's weight and also on the amount of force you hit the object with. But I think what happened was it just made a bunch of distorted sound effects as you were playing. So it didn't come out the best, but hey, that's what experimentation's for. And luckily, with me going to an arts university, they loved that I experimented with game design and made weird abstract things. But that's essentially this game. I have very little to say about it now. The little tube thing is actually not assigned to the character. It's assigned to the physics balls I mentioned, and it's just set to follow them and also follow some of their rotations, because the balls are kind of spinning around, because they're balls. It sort of follows a little bit of their rotation, but mostly rotates to each other. It was very janky. That's why the tube sort of sometimes just smushes in on itself, but other times it doesn't. It was a weird system to try and make. I didn't really know what I was doing, as I mentioned, and it actually turned out very visually interesting. There's a very old test of this on my Instagram. I think if you look past all the weird abstract art I used to make, and then you kind of scroll past that, and it's somewhere. I won't bother to repost it. I don't use Instagram much. I don't know if you can even do that. But essentially it's just the tube sort of following along these balls. I will now play about in the test level, which is the debug level, which I didn't see anyone finding despite it being on the menu. This was just a test of physics of the game, but that's essentially it. This was a project I made a hot minute ago, and I think it's really fun. I actually had a huge amount of nostalgia playing through this game again. Listening to the music and looking at all the fun little visuals I made for it. It was a really fun project to make, actually. Despite it being very derivative of other works of Katamari and Nobi Nobi Boy, it was super fun to make. It was, I think, original enough that it was fine. I wasn't a total rip-off. I had my own ideas. I'm not a talentless hack, I promise. I think it was really fun. What do you think of this game in the comments below? If you want to do a fun let's play of it, you could. I really don't recommend doing that. This game crashes a lot. I'm not being self-deprecating here. I really don't think this is worth playing. It crashes a lot. It takes a lot of hardware for all the rigid bodies. Despite its looks, it actually requires a pretty decent PC to play without it crashing. Just watch this video and think, hey, that game looks fun, I can't wait to not play it, and then don't play this game. Maybe that's not the best thing for a game development person to say in a video, but hey, here we are. But it was still a lot of fun to play, I'll admit. I had a lot of, even if it was not the best design, it's fun to see where I began. I'm tempted to play some of my old prototypes now that I think about it, ones I haven't put on the internet in any capacity, because I tend to be very experimental in my game design, as you may have noticed, and I do a lot of prototypes and then I get rid of them. Let me know in the comments below if you would enjoy seeing some of my other game prototypes. They're not as fleshed out as Grobe Road. They don't have as fun art as Grobe Road. They're mostly experimental little things or little short things. Me playing about with code, things like that. But let me know if you would want to see that in the comments below. You want to see me babble on about not the game for 23 minutes and just something else, and then forget that you were supposed to make a video on the game, and then think, oh no, I totally forgot about that, I messed that one up, I just rambled on about textures. I think I talked about in the video. The point of this, the moral of this story is videos, games, fun. It's fun to be experimental in your designs, and even if your previous work wasn't the best, it's okay because you've grown from there and you're a big girl now and you can code better physics systems than stinky old Unity ones. That's what you get, Unity. That's what you get for being a stinky engine. If this is your first video of mine that you're watching, I find that hard to believe because the algorithm doesn't like me, but if it is, you should check out my other videos. I have devlogs on a more substantial and well-made game than this. I would say it has more better coding, and I don't know if I would say better game than this. I mean, this game has Grobe and Road, the power couple of the century, who are also the same person. But I also have devlogs on an actual, a more in-depth game being created. if you want to check those out, you should look at my channel. You should have a little browse of my videos. Don't go back too far. There's some weird things there. Ooh, old video. Ooh, spooky. Ooh. Thanks for watching.